Today. So we are going to play in the rain, or if you're in Wisconsin, you're playing in the snow. We got a lot of snow last night, but we are going to play with the Rain or Shine Designer Series paper today. So I was kind of playing around with a couple more one sheet wonder ideas, and I thought I would share this one with you. There's a particular paper in this pack, a pattern paper in this pack that I thought was just so cool for creating like little scenes on your card. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to create 7 cards from one sheet of pattern paper. Now I'm going to cut up an entire sheet of designer paper, but I am going to use some other paper besides that. But I'm going to give you some tips on how to cut this particular piece of paper. So good morning, everybody. Good morning. So these are the cards we're going to make, and aren't they cute? Now the little guy here, the little turtle, he he is in one of the designer series papers. So this pack has a variety of just really cool patterns in it. And you can cut this little turtle out with one of the dies in the stamp set. So I'll show you the stamp set in just a minute. So that's really what I did. You can either stamp the turtle or you can cut it out from the designer paper. So I decided to cut it out from the designer paper to create these first 3 cards. So the first 3 cards are created with kind of the upper part of the designer paper, and the last 4 cards are created with the bottom part of the designer paper. So for these cards, I just simply cut this turtle out of a different piece of pattern paper. So the difference between these 2 turtles is one you can cut out with the die, and the other one you have to cut out by hand. so so that's the only difference. All right, so let me show you how to make these. I'm actually going to bring in, let's see, I'm going to bring in well, let me show you the pattern paper first. So here is the paper that has a bite out of it. So this is one of the papers that I used. So this particular turtle, you can cut out with the die. So you don't have to cut this turtle out by hand. And I believe you can cut these other 2 images out of this paper as well using the die from the stamp set. So this is the stamp set that coordinates with this paper. So you can see that turtle is the same one that's on this paper. And the same thing with these other images, it's the same ones that are on this paper. So they do cut out with the dies in the set. So I'm just going to put that back. So this is the coordinating die. So there's 3 dies here that cut out these little critters for your cards. So this is one of the pattern papers that I used. And then the other one, this one, which of course I cut up already. But this one also has images that you can cut out. So this is where I cut out the images that have the little umbrella. So these images you do have to cut out by hand with a scissors. So aren't they cute? There's just so many cute little images in here that you can use. All right, so I'm going to put those to the side. And I'm going to bring in a picture. Hopefully this will work. So I will put this up on my blog later today, but basically this is what the piece of paper looks like that I used to kind of cut up as a one sheet wonder. So it has, the blue sky with the clouds up on the top, and then it just kind of transitions into little daisies on the bottom. So I wanted to figure out a way to cut up this paper so that I could kind of use like these pieces here as a little scene on the card. So the daisies are on the bottom and then you have the clouds on the top. So this is how you cut up the paper. So actually you're going to turn your paper to the side and you're going to be cutting, you'll put your paper in your trimmer this way and you'll be cutting like this across your paper. I hope that makes sense. I don't have an extra piece of paper or I'd pull one out and show you. So the first thing I did is just cut off a 1.5-inch piece right off the top. I cut off those clouds. So it ends up to be 1.5 by 12 inches long. And then the next thing I did is just cut these pieces at 5.5. So it's 4.25 and then 5.5, 5.5 wide. And then I cut a little 1 inch strip, and then I was left with these 3 by 4 inch pieces. So basically that's how I cut up the paper to make these 7 cards. So I'll put this out on my website so you guys can see it. But here's kind of what you get with the pieces. So when you cut off the top of the paper, you end up with these little pieces here. So like here's the top. So there's the top of the paper. That's the 1.5 inch piece I cut off. And then I ended up with a 4.25 by 5.5 inch piece, 2 of them. And then this one is 3.5 by 5.5. So I just used all 3 of these pieces to create the first 3 cards. And then I used the little clouds up here on the top, on this top piece. I just kind of cut these clouds out and used them to decorate the cards. So let me show you how I did that. I'm going to bring one of the cards back so you can see it. So I just used all white cardstock for the base of my cards. So that's what we'll use for the base. And the first thing I did was really just adhere all these pieces to that white cardstock. So it's going to cover the entire front of the card. So let's add some glue here. So I usually just line up the edge, like where the fold is. I kind of line it up with the edge. And then if there's any excess, I'll just trim it off with the scissors. Because sometimes you don't cut exactly perfect. I know I don't. See, there's just a little bit of excess here that I'll trim off with the scissors. So that's one. And then this other one, let's adhere this one right away. So there's 2 pieces that will cover the entire card front. And if you want to cut them up differently, you certainly can. I just wanted to cut them in a way that I could use, you know, have a little bit of daisies on the bottom and then have these clouds on the top. All right, so 2 of them cover the entire card front. And then this last one here, this is that 3.5 inch wide piece. So this is only going to cover right down the center. And I'll probably have to trim this piece. And this will line up the daisies on the bottom. So that's basically the card. I mean, you just create a fun little scene. And like I said, I have a little bit of extra paper kind of hanging off the top of the card. So I usually just take my scissors and just trim this off. All right, so that is the card base. So now let me show you how to put the card together. And I'm going to bring this camera a little bit closer here because I feel like I'm stretching. I don't want to stretch. There we go. All right. Okay, so the cards are a little bit different. You can see that the clouds here um, are a little bit different than the clouds here. So each card just is slightly different, but they all pretty much can be put together the same way. So what I did is I just prepped all my supplies. So I have my little greeting, which I just stamped on a scrap piece of paper. So this greeting comes in this particular set. So I just stamped it on a scrap piece of white cardstock, and then I cut it out with the stylish shapes dies, and then used the layering circle dies to make my mango colored scallop circle. So that's how I created the greeting. And then, of course, I used one of the little turtles from the designer paper. So I'm just going to add some dimensionals on the back here. I just thought these cards, well, I thought the paper was adorable, and they make such adorable cards. So let me add some dimensionals to this other piece here. Running out of dimensionals. Okay, so basically you just kind of align these pieces on the bottom, kind of figure out where you want them. And I think we'll cover up those clouds a little bit. And I adhered my greeting first. So I'm just using Old Olive ink for stamping, in case you were wondering. And then we'll just add this little guy. And I have him kind of overlapping. I have the daisy kind of overlapping onto my greeting. And then I just cut out some clouds. So you can use one of the dies in the set to cut out the smaller clouds. So I cut out a variety of small ones and big ones. The bigger ones you have to cut out by hand, but the smaller ones, there is a die that you can use to cut those out. So let me grab this here quick. I have clouds everywhere. Okay. So let's see. I used this cloud up here, and I used a little bigger cloud over here. If I can grab it, used a little bigger cloud there. So it's really, you could decorate it any way you want. Like I said, you can cut most of these images out from the designer paper, which is exactly what I did. Let's see if I can squeeze this little dimensional in there. So we'll just pop this one up right here. And this just gives it a little bit more depth and dimension. You don't have to add these additional clouds, but I just kind of thought it gave it a fun little look. So that's it. That's how easy that is to create. And then on the inside, I actually used up some of the little turtles that were on the edge of the designer paper. So I used those to decorate the inside of the card. So that's the first card. And then the second one is very similar, just different clouds. So I'm going to actually go ahead and adhere all these pieces together real quick. Create my little focal points here. I'm kind of working off camera. All right, so I have my greetings set up and all my little critters. Okay, cut some dimensionals. So put these over here so they're ready to go. I'll throw that on there. And then my little turtles, I have two more little turtles. So out of the designer paper, you can cut out 3 of these full turtles, I believe. And then you can cut out the turtles that are on the edge of the paper and use those on the inside of your card. You could actually even use them on the outside of the card. Apparently I didn't cut enough dimensionals here. I'm at the end of my dimensionals, so I'm cutting them up. Okay, so we got that set up. So again, this one's the same concept. You just add your greeting. I added my greeting first. I kind of use my turtle as a guide. And then we'll add the little turtle. And then we'll just add one of the bigger clouds to this one. I just think these little critters are so cute. And they create such fun cards. So these first cards are kind of your happy day cards. And then the second set of cards I'm going to share, those are the rainy day cards. So there's card number 2. And again, on the inside, I used one of those little turtles and a little bit of designer paper to decorate the inside. These are just so cute. I think this is going to be my favorite suite. I just really like it. All right, and here's the 3.5-inch wide piece. So again, it's the same concept. I just used up some of the clouds that were on the edge of the designer paper. So I cut out those clouds and added them to the card, like right on the edge of the card. So we'll add this turtle. And then I just used up these little pieces. So I have that little piece of a cloud. And then there's another cloud that has the top cut off and the side cut off. So I just used that up at the top of the card here. And then I just added another little cloud. So you can cut all these clouds out from that designer paper. So we'll add this one here. And we'll use these little edge clouds on the edge of our designer paper up here. And move my finger. So don't throw away those pieces that are on the edge. Definitely use those up to decorate your card, because that's what I did here. So that's it. And then on the inside, oh, I'll show you. On the inside of this one, I think I did the same thing. I used some of the turtles that were on the edge of the card, or the designer paper. So super cute, a lot of fun to play with. All right, so these last couple of cards, these are the cards where I actually cut out the little turtles from the designer paper. So I have 4 of them. So we'll set those on the side here. And for these cards, what I did is I started by putting together kind of the focal point of the card. So these are the pieces that came from the bottom of that designer paper. So these are all the daisies that are on the bottom of the designer paper. And so basically, let's move this for a second. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is just adhering them to a 3¼ by 4¼ inch piece of old olive cardstock. So I took each piece and just adhered it. So we'll do that. Actually, let's move these out of the way here. So once you do all your cutting for the One Sheet Wonder, it goes really pretty quickly to put the cards together. You just do all the prep and then you can assemble. So that's basically what I'm doing here today. I did all the prep already and I'm just assembling the cards for you. I just love daisies, so I think that's why I love this paper and this particular suite. All right, so we have 4 of these. And then there were those small pieces. So this is like the top part of the daisy, that little 1-inch wide. So these are 1 by 3. And these daisies here are 3 by 4. So I just flipped this over and used the back side so that I could add a little bit more color, I guess, and contrast to this focal point. And I just adhered it right to the bottom of the daisies. Whoops. All right, so we'll do that. So all 4 of these pieces, you can use these up and adhere them to the bottom of the daisies. So see, it kind of brings out the daisies a little bit by adding this piece. And then this is the last one. Okay, so now we've used up that entire 12 by 12 inch piece. And then I added my little greetings. So this is just a 3/4 inch wide piece of white cardstock. And I just stamped the greeting on here using basic gray. And I'm going to actually cover up a couple of these squares here. So I'm just going to come down just a little bit on each piece and pop that up. So the greeting is 3/4 inches wide by 3 inches. So this will pop up here. See why it helps to prep all your stuff, because then you can just get to the assembly, get to the good part, right? All right, so we'll add this one. And then we'll add this last one. And then we can tuck our little turtles in there. So this is kind of how I do all of my assembly. I just kind of prep everything, and then I just put everything together and then assemble the cards. So we'll pop the little turtles up right underneath that greeting. So I just tucked his feet, I guess you call them feet, the turtle feet underneath there. So we have two turtles that are kind of looking that way, and then we have two turtles that are looking the opposite direction. So the cards, although they're similar, they are a little bit different. And there's that one, and then this one. Oop. All right. And there we go. So we have all four of our focal points ready. So now we can assemble the card here. So I'm just using the white cardstock for the base of the card. And then these pieces came from a different piece of pattern paper from this particular paper pack. So these are just the little raindrops, and they're on the gray paper. So I'll have to trim these down too. There we go. So we'll add all these right away. Now you could have just added these right to the card front, but I just kind of decided to use up some of the other designer paper. Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like. So this is what it'll look like on that paper, or you could just use it just like this without that additional paper on there. Either way, they're really cute either way. Well, let's add these. And this is the last one. If you use liquid glue, you can kind of scoot it over to the side, which is what I was doing. All right, so now we can go ahead and just add all these focal points, and this is just going to go right in the center. So we'll add these. See how quick and easy that is? And I'll trim off the extra. I have a little bit of excess on the bottom here, so I'll trim that off later. So those two are facing one direction, and then these two are going to be facing the other direction. And then for these cards, the decorating that I did, I used some of the clouds, kind of the gray clouds from the designer series paper that I cut this little turtle from. So I'll show you, I'll just decorate one. I won't decorate them all because they're all pretty much the same. So you just use the clouds from the designer paper. All right, so here are the sets of clouds that I have. So I have some clouds that I cut out from the designer paper. They're a set of two. There's two clouds together. So I just used those up kind of towards the top. And then I used this lone cloud, I guess, the single cloud. I use the single cloud here. Whoop. And we'll just do the same thing. Actually, I think I have all these ready to go. So maybe I will decorate them. So here's the other one. So it's just really, they're just really cute. So you have some Oh Happy Day clouds, and then you have cards, and then you have 4 cards that say rainy days are better with you. And so this one we can just go up a little bit. And these last two. And then I'll show you the inside, how I decorated the inside, very similar to what I did with the first couple of cards. And we can add a little small cloud there. Okay, so those are the 4 cards that you can create with the bottom part of the paper. So let me show you the inside of the cards. Let's bring these back and I'll show you the inside. So again, I just used that designer paper and added the little turtle, which kind of was on the edge of the paper. I added the little turtle on the inside of the card. So it depends on which part of the designer paper you are using. But I tried to coordinate actually the way the turtle's looking. I tried to coordinate that with, you know, the piece I found on the edge of the designer paper. All right, so here are the 4 cards. And then here are the 3 cards. Let's see if I can get them back all on the screen here. And I'll come back on. All right. So what do you think? Hopefully you enjoyed those cards. They are really, it's just really a cute set. And yes, somebody asked if this was shiny. It does have a shiny surface. So it's the Rain or Shine Designer Series paper is a specialty paper. So it does have some embossing on there, kind of some raised images and shiny images. So it's super cute and a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed these card ideas. I had a lot of fun creating them and playing with this paper pack. I'm sure these will not be the last cards that I share with you featuring this pack. So I will get these out on the blog for you, and I will also include that template so you know how to cut up that piece of designer paper. There's actually 2 pieces of that designer paper with the clouds and the daisies on it. So you'll be able to make 14 cards if you choose to use the template that I'm providing. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to let you go. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday and a great rest of your week. And I will see you guys all again next week. So take care, everybody.